Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. In this video I will give you a complete event guide for the Grand Nero Fest 2023. It's been around 6 months since my last complete guide like this one with voiceover, and that's because I'm not out of the wood yet with my exams and my situation at home. But since it's lottery time and Nero Fest on top of it, I tried my best to squeeze out the time needed for this guide. Regarding coming events, in particular Summer 6, I can't guarantee I'll be able to cover them in details like this, but I should at least be able to give you guys the usual farming demonstrations, listing the best farming setups for the highest difficulty nodes, just like I did in the past 6 months. If you find this type of content useful, please let me know by leaving a comment, a like or subscribing to the channel. I really like interacting with you guys and share our Gacha hell experience, but above all it's your support that gives me the strength to pump out more videos like this one. Going back to Nero Fest, while you are waiting for the official announcement, I highly advise you to try clearing Lost Bell 6, since 2 of our top farmers for the event are locked behind Lost Bell 6 completion, namely Habetrot and Casterku. For me personally, the more they delay it, the better. Don't worry, they won't be skipping Nero Fest. In regards to this guide, since it will be a long one, I will put as always timestamps in the description, so that if you are in a hurry you can jump straight to what you need. However, if you can spare the time, I highly advise you to watch it all, since for lottery events you'll want to be as much efficient as possible, and I think I covered almost all you need to know for this one. I will cover in order the event limited CEs, analyzing the Gacha and Lotto CEs, as well as the servants on rate-up for this event. Next we'll take a look at the event lottery, comparing it to other big farming events like Summer 6, to see where spending your apples is worth the most. We'll conclude this first section of the video with a free quest overview, covering all the rotations, the enemy classes and materials dropped. In the second part of the video we will focus on farming efficiency, understanding the differences between each new rotation regarding both shop currency farming and lotto currency farming. For both currencies and for all rotations, we will compare the level 90 single nodes to the new level 90 plus mixed nodes, focusing in particular to the Monarch and Champion nodes, covering Lotto CE and materials drop rates, as well as QP and bond farming. Finally, in the third and last part of the video, I will go over the best returns farming setups for the level 90 Monarch nodes and the level 90 plus Champion nodes. Starting with the event limited CEs, as always we have 3 Gacha CEs, increasing the drop rate for the 3 shop currencies, 1 damage bonus CE that you'll be able to get from the lottery, and that you'll be using only in the high difficulty exhibition quests. And of course we have the Lotto CE, boosting the drop rate for the Lotto currency. In other words, the only one that really matters for this event. In fact, as a general rule, you don't need to roll the gacha for lottery events, since ideally you'll be filling your party with only Lotto CEs. However, in this particular case, there is one CE that can be useful after the event. That is the 5-star Gacha CE Battle Olympia. It's a pure attack stat CE that, when max limit broken, gives you 60% starting MP charge. On top of that, it will give you a small Buster and Arts buff, which should be useful for most servants, since the most common deck is double Buster, double Arts and 1 Quick. Of course, it's not a must roll by any means, but it can be a nice and useful addition to your collection if you're planning to roll on the gacha for Nero or Brynhild. Keep in mind that Koyanskaya banner had Summer Anniversary CE on rate up, and that's another 60% starting MP charge CE, with pure attack stat buffing also Buster and crit damage. So even if they are pretty rare, chances are that you may already have 60% starting MP charge CE. Taking a look at the rate up servants in the gacha for this event, Unfortunately, I can't recommend rolling for gameplay reason on this banner, in particular if Nero Fest comes out before Summer 6, which as is tradition features very overpowered servants on rate up. Caster Nero is still to this day the only 5-star AoE Buster caster, and while she is very good with her 50% NB charge and her targetable 50% attack buff, she is vastly outranked by Caster Q after his Lost Belt 6 rank up. And when it comes to challenge quests, casters aren't really the best damage dealers, while as supports we have stronger options. In regards to Brynhild, personally I think that among 5-star Lancer Buster DPS, Enkidu is just better. It has more damage, more utility, and in the future it will get a 50% charge skill. On top of that, Enkidu is permanent, so it can spook you, and it's also one of the best picks for your SSR ticket. The only one I can recommend for gameplay reasons is Astria, aka Luvia. She's one of the best single target arts DPS, with a very powerful niche. However, she is a permanent 4-star servant, and personally she already spooked me 3 times. So as I said at the beginning, if Nero Fest comes out before Summer 6, this summoning banner should really be low priority. If you are still summoning because you want to get one of your waifus, remember that for this event you'll want to use Gacha CEs only in 2 cases. When filling free slot in your party for missing Lotto CE at the beginning, or right after max limit break in 1 Lotto CE. Otherwise you can also use Gacha CEs while farming single currency nodes to clear the event shop. But as we will discuss in the next part of the video, this is not the optimal choice to clear the event shop. It should be clear by now that the only CE that matters for this event is the Lotto CE Cheer for Master. Unfortunately, it's not as good as previous Lotto CEs, at least when it comes to farming, but it's not that bad either. The main demerits are no starting NP charge, no pure attack stat, and no NP gain buffs. However, it will buff damage for all your servants with a rainbow buff, which in particular can help arts or quick looping DPS. Furthermore, it also gives stars each turn, and since ideally you'll have a party full of Lotto CEs, that means that in room 2 and room 3 you'll always have a decent amount of crit stars if you'll need face cards in order to clear the remaining HPs on one enemy, or maybe use some skills that require crit stars. Do note that this is the same Lotto CE we have gotten in the last Nero Fest, 4 years ago in August 2019. I think this is the first time we have gotten a full lottery rerun, aka with an unlimited number of boxes, that uses the same Lotto CE as the previous one. In other words, if you have played the original event and kept the copies of the Lotto CE, your efficiency for this lottery event will be the best it's ever been, since you can farm from the beginning with a high drop bonus for Lotto currency. If you didn't know, the most dedicated players usually level up their Lotto CE to 100, and after the end of the event they will use this level 100 CE in order to immediately level up to 100 the next lottery CE. This event should teach us to be more careful with our Lotto CE and maybe drop this habit. Fortunately, I've always kept all my copies of event CEs. If you are a new player, don't worry, you'll be able to get 4 copies of the Lotto CE from the shop. The wiki says 5, but I'm not sure it's correct, so you'll have to check it out when the event starts. And in any case, you'll be able to automatically get more copies while farming any free quest node. The unlimited lottery is in fact the best selling point of this type of event. It's a big chance to stockpile everything you may need now or in the near future. More precisely, you can get a lot of QPs that are required basically for every action you take in this game, every type of skill gems together with a selection of ascension materials that will help you level up your servants and their skills. In particular, even old servants will need skill gems and materials thanks to append skills. If you are relatively new to the game, you can stockpile embers to level up all your current servants and even keep some in reserve for future ones. Instead, if you are a veteran with enough coins to level up your servants past level 100, unlike me and probably most of the other free-to-players out there, then you can take this chance to level up to 120 one of your favorite units while getting all the other goodies. Meanwhile, it will take days for me to turn those embers into a sea of mana prism, since I refuse to use my precious SSR ticket only to get 6 more level out of my favorite unit. I will probably unlock another append skill instead. For God's sake, Lasengel, it's been 2 years in JP, you have milked them enough, fix the coins. At last, don't forget about friend points, since lottery events are basically the only way to stockpile a lot of them. They are your main way to level up Cs to level 100, making XP bombs with low rarity Cs you'll get from the friend points gacha, and by the end of the year they will be your main way to get extra grails with the introduction of grail casting, that will convert servant coins into grails. And as you should understand from my rant earlier, you'll only want to use servant coins of which you have a steady source, aka those of low rarity servants that you can get from the friend points gacha. Our Lotto currency this time is called Crimson Petal, and as usual you'll need 600 of those in order to clear one full Lotto box. As I stressed previously, lottery events are the best place to use all your apples, so you should try and farm as many boxes as you can, and even if you have limited time to play during this event, you should really try to at least open the first 10 boxes, in order to get all the grand prizes. In any case, be careful to avoid resetting your Lotto boxes earlier. This only applies to the first 10 boxes where you can reset after getting the grand prizes, but you should really avoid that since you want to get all the goodies from each box, especially if we consider that the first 10 boxes also have gold and silver apples in them, unlike all the Lotto boxes past the 11th one, and these extra apples can let you farm more extra boxes. Thankfully, now that we have the 100 spin button, opening a lot of boxes is not a problem like before. We waste far less time spinning the Lotto and, more importantly, managing our present box. At the end of all that work, we get bigger stack of embers for future usage. With all that said, I want to warn you guys about one thing. The next Summer 6 event is basically the best place we ever had to stockpile a lot of different Ascension materials with maximum efficiency AP-wise, in particular for gold rarity materials. When it comes to only Ascension materials, this event clearly beat the lottery. So, depending on your account, for example, if you don't need copies and embers, but you need a lot of materials in order to level up your skills and the new append skills, then maybe you should save some apples for this summer event. We don't know yet which event will come first, so I figured I should warn you guys. If it wasn't for the friend points you can get from the lottery, which will be needed for grail casting, then I would personally consider farming Summer 6 more than the lottery. But this is just me being salty about not having any need for the embers from the lottery. Objectively speaking, I think the lottery is still the best choice to dump all your apples. For all these reasons, let's take a look at the free quest you'll be farming in order to spin the lottery. Nero Fest is a pure farming event with 3 different rotations or rounds of free quests. With each new rotation, the layout, enemy classes and numbers of enemies in each node will change, and once the time window for that specific rotation is over, you won't be able to farm those free quests anymore. so be sure to get all the info you need and decide on which node to farm before the event starts if possible, since the easiest free quest for you to farm will only be available for a limited time. Anticipating some important tips covered in details later, for max efficiency focus on the Monarch nodes, aka the level 90 single nodes for Lotto currency, or on the Champion nodes, aka the level 90 plus mixed nodes that drop both Lotto currency and shop currencies. To make things simple, they are the last two nodes with higher difficulty that you'll see in the list of free quests. On the screen right now you can check the layout and type of enemies as well as materials dropped for these Monarch and Champion nodes for all 3 rotations. I will explain the details about farming efficiency in the second part of this guide, but I want to point out immediately that Monarch and Champion nodes have the same drop rate for Lotto currency. So if you are worried about not being able to farm the level 90 plus mixed nodes, then don't worry. If you are talking about spinning the lottery, the level 90 single nodes are just as efficient. Of course, farming the level 90 plus mixed nodes will give you some other benefits, which we will discuss in details in the second part of this guide, focusing on farming efficiency. Speaking of which, I will anticipate just one more tip, that is, each new rotation will add a flat amount of drops to all currencies, both shop and Lotto currencies. By flat I mean that it won't scale with your total drop bonus, aka with the number of event CEs in your party. This means that round 2 will be slightly more efficient than round 1, and similarly round 3 will be slightly more efficient than round 2. The difference is small, but remember, you'll be spending a lot of apples in this event, so we are considering every tiny difference, since with enough farming you will notice these differences. Of course, if with the servants in your account you can only farm a specific round, then go for it, spend all your apple there. These considerations I've made are for only those that can farm reliably all 3 rotations, so that they can save their apples for round 3 to be slightly more efficient. And even then, we all have different needs for ascension materials, so we may just decide to farm round 1 or round 2 because they drop materials that we need. They will be much more important than the slight increase in efficiency I've talked about. Don't worry, I will give you the exact numbers in the second part of this guide. I will conclude this first part of the guide anticipating some consideration from the last part covering the farming compositions. If we look at the number of possible farming setups for each rotation, their party cost, the rarity of the DPS required, and so on, then for both Monarch and Champion nodes, I would say that with each new round the difficulty will decrease. This should be easy to understand if we take a look at the Monarch level 90 single nodes, in particular if you think about looping setups with double Castoria, since looping in the first 2 rooms will be easier with each new round, and similarly dealing with the enemy bosses in room 3 will become easier. For the mixed level 90 plus Champion nodes, it may a bit more difficult to see, given that round 1 have Berserker enemies, which usually gives you more options, but overall you will see that you will have cheaper and more efficient option for round 2 and round 3, at least if you have managed to get and level up a big enough roster of servants. This concludes the first part of this guide. This time I decided to split it in 3 parts to avoid publishing an hour-and-a-half long video and to give me a bit more time to finish part 2 and part 3. If you have found this first part useful, as usual, please let me know by leaving a like, a comment or subscribing to the channel, and stay tuned for the following parts. Hopefully I will see you there. Bye bye!